The stadium lights blaze across the snow-white banners of red and blue. Beneath the cool night air of Los Angeles, a low hum grows into a roar, the sound of a nation reawakening after nearly 3 decades of silence. Cameras find him standing tall at the halfway line, his jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the horizon. Erling Haaland, Norway's number 9, a figure cut from granite, carved by the cold winds of brine, and now poised to lead his country back into football's brightest spotlight, the FIFA World Cup. For most watching around the world, this moment feels inevitable. For Norway, it feels almost impossible. 28 years since their last appearance, and now here they stand, reborn, rebuilt, and ready to fight. But before the thunder, there was quiet. Before Haaland's rise, Norway's football identity had slipped into obscurity. Their last great act on the world stage came in 1998, in the port city of Marseille, when Kjetil Rekdal's penalty stunned Brazil, a victory so monumental it was retold like folklore in every corner of the country. Yet what followed was 2 decades of near misses, broken campaigns, and a generation raised on memories rather than moments. A small nation with big dreams, lost in the growing gap between elite football's superpowers. And then came the boy who couldn't stop scoring. The story of Norway's 2026 World Cup journey begins not on a global stage, but on the frostbitten training fields of a small club called Folk. There, a 6-year-old Erling Haaland was already outpacing players twice his age, driven by a quiet obsession. His father, Alf Inge Haaland, had once worn the same shirt for Norway and graced the Premier League with Leeds United and Manchester City. But even he admitted his son's hunger was something different, almost unnatural. Coaches remember young Erling staying behind after every session, pounding ball after ball into the net until the sun disappeared behind the hills. His mother, Marita, a former heptathlete, would often call him in for dinner, only to find him sprinting alone, perfecting his movements in silence. In those early years, Norway wasn't a nation that dreamed of global football glory. Their identity leaned on endurance sports, skiing, and biathlon. Football was a passion, yes, but not a promise. The winter air was too harsh, the pool of talent too small. Yet, out of that frozen ground, Haaland's ambition began to bloom. While his peers idolized Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, Haaland studied their efficiency. He watched, analyzed, and imitated, not just how they scored, but how they thought. The result was a machine in the making, one whose instincts seemed almost mechanical, but whose purpose was deeply human, to lift a nation's dream. By the time he was a teenager, Haaland was already rewriting the rules of development. At 15, he made his debut for Brine's senior team. At 17, he joined Molde under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the same man who had once been Norway's poster boy for international football. Solskjaer saw in him not just raw power but terrifying efficiency. Haaland scored 4 goals in 21 minutes against Brann, and scouts across Europe began circling. When he moved to Red Bull Salzburg in Austria, the transformation accelerated. Goals came like clockwork, 29 in 27 games, including a hat-trick in his Champions League debut. It wasn't just the goals that stunned people, it was the inevitability. He played as if destiny was scripted. But Norway's rebirth wasn't going to be written by one man alone. Around the same time Haaland's legend was growing, another Norwegian was quietly becoming a maestro, Martin Odegaard. The two could not have been more different in style. Where Haaland was chaos and explosion, Odegaard was precision and poetry. His story began even earlier, a prodigy at 15, signed by Real Madrid, thrust into a world of expectations few teenagers could handle. For a while, it seemed he might vanish into the long list of what-ifs that haunt football's history. But Odegaard's resilience became his greatest strength. After years of loan spells across the Netherlands and Spain, he rebuilt himself into one of Europe's most intelligent playmakers. By 2021, he was Arsenal's captain, leading with quiet command and vision that made him the perfect counterbalance to Haaland's storm. Together, they embodied Norway's football duality, muscle and mind, power and poetry. And when Ståle Solbakken took charge of the national team in 2020, he saw in them not just stars, but a system. Solbakken, himself a student of tactical discipline and psychological nuance, knew Norway couldn't simply mimic the giants. They had to be different. He designed a structure to amplify their strengths, a shape that could morph between 4 to 3-3 and 5 to 4-1, tight at the back, lethal on the break. His philosophy was simple: make Norway impossible to break down and devastating to stop once they surge forward. The early signs were promising. During the 2022 to 2023 qualifiers, Norway began to play with a rhythm not seen since the days of Egil Olsen, the eccentric professor who masterminded their 1998 success. But this time, the play was modern, built on quick transitions, vertical precision, and the constant interplay between Ødegaard's control and Haaland's movement. By the end of their World Cup qualification campaign, Norway had scored 22 goals, with Haaland netting 9 of them. They weren't just winning, they were believing again. Across Norway, bars and cafes filled with fans who had long given up on seeing their flag at a World Cup. In Oslo's streets, murals of Haaland began to appear. Children mimicked his celebrations on frozen pitches, shouting his name into the night. "He's not just scoring for City," one old supporter said during a televised interview. "He's scoring for us, for everyone who remembers 1998. But for all the growing optimism, the road wasn't smooth. Norway's history had been a cycle of promise and heartbreak. There were moments when qualification seemed to slip away, missed chances, late goals conceded, the familiar sting of almost. In those moments, Solbakken's leadership was tested. He reminded his players that pressure was a privilege. "We are not a nation of fear," he told them in a pre-match speech. "We are a nation of fight." That fighting spirit was evident in the decisive qualifier against Switzerland, a must-win game in Oslo. The Ullevål Stadion, bathed in red, was alive with anticipation. The game hung in balance until the 83rd minute, when Ødegaard split the defense with a pass that felt like poetry in motion. Haaland darted between 2 defenders, 1 stride, 2, then a finish so pure it silenced doubt. 1-0. Norway were through. The eruption that followed wasn't just celebration, it was release. 28 years of waiting, frustration, and forgotten dreams burst out into the cold Scandinavian night. And so, as the draw for the 2026 World Cup was made, Norway's name appeared once more among the 32. Their group, brutal. Argentina, Japan, and Croatia, each a master of contrasting styles. The pundits called it the group of death. But for Norway, it was something more. It was proof they belonged again. When the squad assembled in 2026 for the pre-tournament camp in Canada, the energy was different. Haaland was now one of football's global faces, his goal-scoring feats. At Manchester City, redefining records with inhuman regularity, Ødegaard was the heartbeat of Arsenal's midfield, known for dictating tempo with surgeon-like accuracy. Alexander Sørloth, the towering forward from Villarreal, had become their third spearhead, a link between Haaland's aggression and Ødegaard's subtlety. Behind them, Ørjan Nyland stood ready in goal, and the defence, anchored by Kristoffer Ajer and Leo Skiri Østigard, embodied Nordic defiance. What was once a team of hope now looked like a team of purpose. Solbakken's sessions were intense: focus, detail, repetition. He knew that every inch mattered on North American soil, where heat, distance, and atmosphere could shift the outcome of games. Norway's training base in Vancouver became a fortress of preparation. Every player was drilled in transitions, pressing triggers, and positioning. They studied Argentina's fluid attack, Japan's relentless movement, and Croatia's midfield artistry. For a nation so long absent from this level, they were leaving nothing to chance. The story wasn't just tactical, it was emotional. Every day, Solbakken reminded them of the lineage they carried. Photos of Norway's 1998 heroes lined the training room walls. Rekdal's penalty, Solskjaer's smile, John Arne Riis's youthful grin, reminders of what was possible when belief outweighed fear. Haaland, usually stoic, often lingered before those photos. "They made history once," he said in one interview. It's our turn now. But even heroes have doubts. As the tournament approached, the pressure began to mount. Pundits debated whether Norway had the depth to survive the group. Critics pointed to their lack of experience in knockout football. Social media dissected every friendly performance, every misplaced pass. Haaland remained unbothered, but Odegaard, always reflective, spoke about the weight of expectation. "We carry not just our flag," he said. "We carry generations of silence." In a behind-the-scenes documentary aired by NRK, footage showed the team during a rainy evening session in Vancouver. Solbakken watched quietly as Haaland and Odegaard argued over positioning, not in anger, but in passion. "We're close," Solbakken said to his assistant. "They're starting to think like winners." That mindset would define what came next. Norway entered the World Cup not as favourites, but as disruptors, a team that could tilt balance through sheer will. Every analyst agreed on one thing: if Haaland caught fire, anything was possible. When the anthem plays for the first time in Los Angeles, and the Norwegian flag ripples beneath the stadium floodlights, it is more than just a football match. It is the return of belief, the redemption of a nation that refused to vanish. For the players, for the fans, for every young dreamer watching from Oslo to Trondheim, this isn't just about football. It's about identity. For Norway, the rise wasn't sudden. It was earned, built on the sweat of forgotten years, the patience of a people, and the brilliance of a generation born to rewrite the ending. And as Haaland takes his first steps onto that vast North American pitch, you can almost hear it, the echo of the past whispering into the future, "Make it count." No narrator prompts, no headings, just clean, flowing storytelling in the same professional, emotionally charged tone. The matchday sun glints off the edges of the stadium in Los Angeles, bathing the pitch in gold. The noise is unrelenting, a mix of curiosity and disbelief that Norway, after all these years, stands on this stage again. Across the halfway line, Lionel Messi, now 38, but still commanding. Reverence leads Argentina in what could be his final World Cup. It is a script that seems too dramatic to be real. The reigning world champions versus the long-forgotten Nordic nation with a striker born to defy gravity. Haaland shakes hands with Messi before kickoff, a symbolic meeting of eras. Cameras linger on the image, the torch perhaps passing, or perhaps not. The whistle blows, and Norway's 2026 World Cup begins. The first 15 minutes are chaos. Argentina dominate the ball, probing with their trademark rhythm. Norway defend deep, compact, the shape drilled into them for months. Odegaard orchestrates from deep, urging calm, pointing, adjusting. Then the first spark, a turnover on the right flank. Sorloth intercepts, lays it off to Odegaard, who looks up and sees space behind Argentina's backline. The pass is surgical, cutting between defenders like a laser. Haaland bursts forward, strides eating grass, one touch, two, and then a finish struck with terrifying precision. The net ripples. The stadium gasps. 1-0, Norway. For a moment, time freezes. Haaland turns, eyes wide, and sprints toward the corner flag, roaring into the air. His teammates swarm him. On the sidelines, Solbakken barely reacts, just a clenched fist. He knows the game isn't won, not against Argentina. But what the goal symbolizes is monumental. Norway can hurt the best. Argentina respond as champions do. Messi, Di Maria, and Julian Alvarez combine in patterns that test every nerve in Norway's defense. In the 67th minute, a free kick bends beyond Nyland's reach, 1-1. Yet even in that equalizer, there is no panic. Norway hold. They absorb. When the final whistle sounds, it's a draw, but it feels like a victory. The underdogs have landed their first blow on the world stage. Back home, the reaction is electric. In Oslo, people pour into the streets waving flags. A generation that grew up watching other nations' heroes now has their own. Sports channels replay Haaland's goal in slow motion, his expression, the noise, the disbelief. Analysts begin to whisper that maybe, just maybe, Norway aren't here just to make up the numbers. The second group match, against Japan, tests a different kind of strength. Japan's speed and precision stretch Norway to their limits. Odegaard is pressed relentlessly, and the game becomes a mental battle. But Solbakken's system is built for moments like this. When Japan push too high, Odegaard finds a sliver of space, sliding a pass into the left channel. Haaland doesn't hesitate. A single touch, then a low strike across goal. 2-1. It is his second of the tournament, and it puts Norway on the brink of qualification. After the final whistle, Haaland walks toward the fans and lifts his hands in gratitude. The cameras zoom in on his face, the same calm intensity that defines his career. Odegaard follows, clapping slowly, his expression almost serene. Together, they embody the new Norway, humble, methodical, and unyielding. The final group game, against Croatia, is different. The stakes are brutal. Win or draw, and Norway advance. Lose, and the dream ends. Croatia's midfield, Luka Modric, Brozovic, Kovacic, still commands respect. For long stretches, Norway are pinned back. The ball feels magnetically drawn to Norway's penalty area. Nyland pulls off save after save. Aja and Østegård throw themselves into every block. And then, in the 76th minute, the moment that cements belief, Odegaard curls a free kick from 25 yards. It glances off the wall, looping awkwardly. Haaland reacts first, spinning and volleying in mid-air. It's breathtaking, an instinctual strike that defies balance and logic. 3 goals in 3 matches. Norway are through to the round of 16. The celebration in Oslo is euphoric. Flares, flags, fireworks. Children chant Haaland's name. Newspapers call it Viking Resurrection. Old veterans of the 1998 team appear on television, teary-eyed. Rekdal himself says softly, "We've waited 28 years for this." But inside the Norwegian camp, there is little time to revel. Their next opponent is Spain, a footballing superpower known for suffocating control. Solbakken gathers his players in a quiet meeting room. "They will have the ball," he says, pacing slowly. "Let them. We will have the moments that matter." The match in Houston begins under blazing Texan heat. Spain pass probe and prod. Norway's defensive discipline is extraordinary, each line moving in sync, Odegaard leading with silent authority. In the 62nd minute, the moment comes. Odegaard intercepts, turns sharply, and threads a pass into space. Haaland chases, body colliding with the defenders, and somehow keeps balance. He smashes the ball home from the edge of the box. The net ripples again. Silence from Spanish fans. 1-0. Norway defend as though possessed. The final minutes stretch endlessly, but when the whistle blows, the impossible has happened. Norway have beaten Spain to reach the quarter-finals of the World Cup. The players collapse to the turf, exhausted. Haaland sits, staring upward, barely able to smile. Odegaard walks over and pulls him to his feet. In that moment, captured by every camera, they exchange a few words unheard by the world. But their expressions say it all. They have changed Norway forever. As the tournament unfolds, Norway's run becomes the story of the summer. Broadcasters marvel at their efficiency, their humility, their belief. Haaland's face adorns billboards from New York to Tokyo. The myth grows with every goal. Journalists draw parallels between this team and the Viking spirit. Relentless, fearless, bound by loyalty. But inside the team, it's simpler. They're not chasing history, they're living it. The semi-final awaits. Against France, the reigning European champions. It is a mountain almost too high. Yet Norway walk onto the pitch at Levi Stadium with heads high, singing the anthem like warriors stepping into legend. From kickoff, France press hard. Kylian Mbappe, still lightning quick, tears down the flank, testing Nyland and Ajer. Norway's resistance holds until the 41 stones minute when a deflected shot gives France the lead. Halftime comes and the locker room is silent. Haaland sits with his head down, sweat pouring from his brow. Solbakken kneels in front of him. "You've brought us here," he says softly. "Now, show them why." The second half begins with fury. Odegaard takes control, dictating tempo, threading passes into the channels. In the 63rd minute, a corner. Odegaard delivers. Haaland rises higher than anyone, connecting with a header that feels like thunder. The net ripples. 1-1. The stadium explodes in noise. Norway are alive again. But football, like fate, is cruel. In the 89th minute, France break away and score. Norway's dream fractures. The final whistle brings heartbreak. 2-1. Elimination. Players collapse, some crying openly. Haaland stands motionless, staring at the pitch. Odegaard walks to him, places a hand on his shoulder. Together they walk toward the fans, applauding them through the pain. The crowd responds in kind, standing, cheering, waving flags. They know what they've witnessed isn't just a story of defeat. It's a story of arrival. In the days that follow, the Norwegian team returns home to a hero's welcome. Tens of thousands gather in Oslo to greet them. From balconies, flags flutter like memories revived. When Haaland takes the microphone, his voice cracks slightly. "We didn't win the trophy," he says, "but we won something else, belief, and belief doesn't fade." Odegaard steps beside him and adds quietly, "We're not finished. This is just the beginning." The 2026 World Cup becomes a defining chapter in Norway's football rebirth. Pundits call it the Viking Renaissance. Analysts dissect their tactical evolution, the disciplined transitions, the precision pressing, the unshakable chemistry between Haaland and Odegaard. But beyond the numbers lies something deeper, a shift in how the world sees Norwegian football. Clubs across Europe begin investing in Norwegian talent. Youth academies in Oslo, Bergen, and Trondheim overflow with new sign-ups. Kids wear shirts with Haaland's number 9, not Messi's or Ronaldo's. The country's football federation channels its newfound momentum into infrastructure, coaching, and development. The message is clear: Norway is here to stay. For Haaland, the World Cup becomes a personal crucible. He entered it as a superstar. He leaves it as a leader. His goals, 7 in 6 matches, make him the tournament's top scorer. But it's his humility and resilience that redefine him. In interviews, he speaks not of fame, but of legacy. "You play for your name on the back," he says, "but you win for the flag on the front." For Odegaard, the tournament cements his place among Europe's elite midfielders. His vision, his calmness under pressure, his symbiotic link with Haaland, all elevate him from captain to symbol. Analysts note how every Norwegian attack begins with his touch, his awareness turning chaos into clarity. Together, the two become the pillars of a golden generation that promises more. And for Solbakken, the architect behind it all, the World Cup validates years of perseverance. His meticulous planning, his faith in young players, and his quiet leadership reshape Norway's footballing philosophy. "It was never about stars," he later says. "It was about system, about heart." As the months pass, the echoes of 2026 linger. Fans still replay Haaland's goal against Spain, Odegaard's free kick against Croatia, Nyland's impossible saves. Commentators across the world speak of Norway as the blueprint for how a small nation can challenge giants through structure, spirit, and unity. But the truest legacy is felt in the smallest places. In Brine, young boys and girls train on the same pitch where Haaland once did, dreaming bigger. In Drammen, Odegaard's hometown, murals depict him holding the national flag, smiling. Schools organize tournaments called the New Dawn Cup. It isn't about winning, it's about believing. In the years that follow, Norway's success ripples outward. The team qualifies comfortably for the 2030 World Cup, no longer underdogs but contenders. Their style matures, faster, bolder, more fluid. Yet even as football evolves, the essence remains: teamwork, humility, and courage. The generation that once looked up to foreign idols now wears their own heroes on posters. Looking back, historians will say 2026 was the year Norway remembered who they were. The year when frozen pitches gave rise to giants. When the quiet discipline of a small nation met the brilliance of a striker who refused to follow any script but his own. The images from that summer remain iconic. Haaland's outstretched arms after scoring. Against Spain, Odegaard's serene smile, Solbaken's proud glance toward the sky. They capture not just moments, but meaning. Football had given Norway back its voice. In a late-night interview months after the tournament, Haaland is asked what that World Cup meant to him. He pauses, thoughtful. "It wasn't just about us," he says. "It was about showing every small country that dreams are real, that even from the coldest corner of the world, you can make the world stop and watch." The camera lingers on his expression, the faintest smile crossing his face. "And next time," he adds, "we're not coming to watch the trophy, we're coming to take it." The screen fades to black. But before the credits roll, a single image remains, a close-up of the Norwegian flag, waving above a packed Ullevål stadium, voices singing the anthem under summer skies. A nation reborn, united by belief, driven by destiny. The Viking thunder has returned, and it echoes still. And if this story moved you, if the echoes of the World Cup still make your heart beat a little faster, stay with us. More journeys, more legends, more moments that shaped the world's game are still to come. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join this growing community of football storytellers, because the past is never just history, it's the heartbeat of everything still to come.